West Federal Constituency of Benue State. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this debate. I want to bring to the notice of Nigerians that we represent the bicameral legislature of Nigeria and the executive that certain statutory provisions of our laws that are made to provide fiscal discipline are serially being violated by the executive in the budget proposals and presentations they make to the National Assembly. Very quickly, I thank my colleague earlier. He mentioned the issue, but he glossed over it, but I think it's something that is bordering on statutory provisions and cannot be glossed over. Let me read very quickly the provisions of the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007. It provides in Part 2, Section 12, subsection 1, that aggregate expenditure and the aggregate amount appropriated by the National Assembly for each financial year shall not be more than the estimated aggregate revenue plus a deficit not exceeding 3% of the estimated gross domestic product or any sustainable percentage as may be determined by the National Assembly for each financial year. If my honorable colleagues can please refer to page 9 of His Excellency Mr. President's presentation, it says very clearly in the first, let me start from page 8 very quickly. It says in section 50, the 2021 budget deficit is projected at 5.2 trillion. This represents 3.64% of estimated GDP, slightly above the 3% threshold set by the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007. Now, it is important to note that Mr. President himself has alluded to the contravention of provisions, of statutory provisions of a subsisting act of the Federation of Nigeria. In 2020, the same thing occurred. If you look at page 3 of Mr. President's presentation, in number 12, it also says the projected deficit of 4.98 trillion or 3.57%. So what am I trying to say, Mr. Speaker? We are allowing, as custodians of the law, the contravention of the provisions of the laws enacted by this House. And those provisions were made based on sound financial considerations to ensure and enshrine fiscal discipline in the administration of the revenue and expenditure of our country. But it appears as if the executive does not respect this provision, and ordinarily I believe this budget should be withdrawn and the provisions of the Act should be adhered to. I, with the leave of Mr. Speaker and this Honorable House, would want to present to this House issues regarding the non-constitution of the Fiscal Responsibility Commission by this administration till date, which I believe is allowing this flagrant disregard of provisions of this Act, because the Commission itself is not instituted to guard their statutory responsibility. With regards to the issue of revenue, it is obvious that the definition of insanity, like they say, is to do the same thing all the time and expecting a different result. As a nation, we have not yet decided that we want to pursue seriously the issue of revenue in this nation. And I think that this is part of what the collaboration, which is commendable, between the House, or the National Assembly rather, and the executive should start to pursue. And some of us will be present at the commencement of the considerations for some constitutional amendments and reforms, because there are very straightforward and direct things we need to do to start to unlock the revenue that we need to transform the issues in this country. Finally, Mr. Speaker, with regards to the issues of IDPs I have not seen a provision in this budget for the reconstruction and rehabilitation of communities that have a preponderance of internally displaced people. Mr. President, through the Vice President, promised my people in Benue State there was a 10 billion naira provision made in 2018 for this purpose, but not a single dime has come to our state in that regard, and I have not seen any provisions here, and our people are still dwelling in camps without intervention by this federal government. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me this opportunity.